Hello and welcome to another episode of Crafting with CITiZAN. So today we are going to look at what happens to the sea levels if ice melts at the North Pole or at the South Pole. Does it matter? Well, this is a really important question for us because people have lived along the coast for as long as we've been around. We care about our seaside villages and towns, and as coastal archaeologists, CITiZAN very much cares about all the heritage that might disappear underwater if the sea level goes up. So let's go and see what we can make. So for today, you just need a few things to do our craft. We have 2 small Tupperware containers. We have some Play-Doh. We have some water with blue food dye. You don't need the blue food dye, but I think it looks kind of cool. We have 2 dry erase markers. We have a few little houses and hotels from Monopoly board. And most importantly, we have some ice. Now I have 2 big ice cubes, but you might not be able to make ice cubes this big. Don't worry, this experiment works perfectly with smaller ice cubes as well. So today, the first thing that we are going to do is to make our continents. So we have our Play-Doh right here, and we're going to start by dividing it in half, just like this, and then dividing another one in half, just like that. So the first thing we're going to make is the lovely South Pole, which includes the continent of Antarctica. So you make a little continent like this and plop her in, just like that. Now, what we're also going to do, make something a similar size, just a small one, similar height I should say. Pop it in on this side. And this right here is going to represent the coast of England. And flop it over, just like that. Try and make them so they're about that height, just like that. So there we are. Now we have the South Pole. If we reach over and we grab one of our lovely dry erase markers, we can label it as South Pole, just like that. Now, to represent the North Pole, we only need one small bit to again represent the coast of the UK, and that's because the North Pole is formed of floating polar ice caps. So there's no continent up there. So we pop her in just like that. And now what we're going to do, so actually we'll pop it on that side. That'll make it look even cooler, just like that. What we're going to do is make sure that they're about the same height. There we are. That looks about right. It's okay that they're a bit different. And then of course, we have to label it up as the North Pole. Okay. Now, the next thing for us to do is to add our ice. So on the North Pole, the ice goes straight into what is going to be the ocean. But on the South Pole, the ice is actually going to sit just like this. Is the ice going to sit? The ice is going to sit just like that. There we go. The next thing to do is to get our water and to very slowly add the water up to the same line in both containers. So I'm just going to have a look and say, that looks about right for me there. I'll do the same on that side. Now it's really difficult to get this absolutely perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other dry erase marker and I'm going to mark the water line on both sides. So that way we have a better idea of how things are changing. Now it doesn't really matter how much water you use, as long as you mark what the levels are, then you'll get some idea of how this science works. And finally, the last thing to do is for us to add our little seaside village right here. Go. Go. Now, what I'm going to do is put these somewhere safe and take a photo every 15 minutes so you guys can see how the sea level is changing. The ice on the North Pole is in the form of a floating polar ice cap, while the ice on the South Pole is mainly in the form of an ice sheet on top of the continent of Antarctica. As floating ice melts in water, the space that the ice took up is replaced by water. So the water level in the North Pole model should not increase as the ice melts. However, when an ice sheet on a landmass, such as in Antarctica or Greenland, melts, this does cause an increase in the water level. Now, this is what you should be observing in the South Pole model, with an increase of around 1 to 2 centimeters, depending on the shape of the dough, landmass, and ice cubes. So it is thought that if all the ice on the poles melted, sea levels would increase by at least 200 feet, due entirely to the ice on the South Pole melting, although the ice on Antarctica is not considered to be in danger of melting anytime soon. Well, I hope you had fun and learned a little bit more today about the difference between ice at the North Pole, ice at the South Pole, and why it's really important that we monitor the levels of ice and learn a bit more about how it contributes to sea level change. Now, please send in any photos you have of the experiments that you've done today. I would absolutely love to see them. There's loads of activities going on this week on the CBA website for the Festival of Archaeology. Stuff for old people, stuff for young people, stuff for people who want to just learn about heritage. There's also lots of activities similar to this available on the Young Archaeologist website. So next week, we are going to be making our very own seaside shoreline and find out how waves contribute to erosion